The year is 1588, and the Spanish King Philip II is the leader of the most powerful navy the world has ever seen. With this power at hand, he decides to sail against England and oppose the powerful kingdom led by Queen Elizabeth I. To fully understand the Sea Battle of 1588, we must delve into the historical context that led to this monumental clash. During the late 16th century, Spain and England found themselves embroiled in a fierce rivalry that encompassed political, religious and economic dimensions. At the heart of this rivalry was King Philip II of Spain, a devout Catholic monarch, and Queen Elizabeth I of England, a Protestant ruler. Philip saw Elizabeth as a threat to Catholicism and sought to restore Catholicism's dominance by eliminating her from the throne. One of Philip's main motivations for invading England was his desire to punish the English for their support of Protestant rebellions in the Spanish Netherlands, modern-day Belgium. He also aimed to end English piracy, which had been disrupting Spanish trade routes and plundering their treasure ships. Moreover, Spain, under Philip's rule, had amassed a vast empire across Europe, the Americas and Asia. By conquering England, Philip sought to gain control over its navy and expand his dominance, thereby solidifying Spain's status as the preeminent European power. On the other hand, England under Queen Elizabeth I had emerged as a growing naval and economic power. The English had their own ambitions for global expansion and sought to challenge Spain's supremacy on the seas. As tensions mounted between the two nations, it became clear that a decisive confrontation was inevitable. And so, in the summer of 1588, the Spanish Armada set sail, heralding the beginning of a historic battle to never be forgotten. Now let's turn our attention to the Spanish Armada, the formidable fleet assembled by King Philip II with the purpose of invading England. The formation and scale of the Spanish Armada were truly inspiring. It was composed of around 130 ships, including massive galleons, warships and smaller vessels. It was an impressive display of naval power, with the flagship known as the San Martin serving as the command vessel. The Armada's ships were adorned with ornate decorations showcasing Spain's wealth and power. Spain's strategy was twofold. First, to transport a mighty invasion force of around 30,000 soldiers known as the Army of Flanders to England. Second, to engage and defeat the English navy, thereby establishing control over the English Channel. To transport troops, the Armada relied on the concept of a crescent formation. The fleet was arranged in the shape of a crescent, with larger ships on the outer edges and smaller vessels forming the inner circle. This formation aimed to protect the troop-carrying ships from potential attacks by the English navy and enable them to safely land in England. The Armada's plan for conquering England involved securing control of the English Channel, allowing their troop-carrying ships to make landfall and establish a foothold. Once on English soil, the Spanish intended to link up with Catholic supporters and launch an invasion of the country, with the ultimate goal of toppling Queen Elizabeth I from the throne. With their grandeur, size and strategic objectives, the Spanish Armada set out to achieve a decisive victory against England. While the Spanish Armada was gathering strength, England was not idle. To defend against the Spanish invasion, Queen Elizabeth I mobilized her forces, rallying the nation in a remarkable display of leadership. She delivered a powerful speech at Tilbury, addressing her troops and inspiring them with her unwavering resolve. Her words, famously declaring, "I know I have the body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king," encapsulating the determination that would galvanize her forces. The key figures in the English preparations was Sir Francis Drake, a renowned naval commander and privateer. Drake played a crucial role in coordinating the defense against the Armada. He led the English navy in disrupting Spanish preparations and launching preemptive strikes on Spanish ports, weakening the Armada before it even set sail. The English navy, under the command of experienced admirals like Lord Charles Howard and Sir John Hawkins, underwent significant preparations as well. They focused on enhancing their naval capabilities, equipping their ships and training their crews for the imminent confrontation. England's naval advantage lay in their maneuverability and firepower of their ships, allowing them to potentially outmaneuver the slower and less agile Spanish vessels. Furthermore, England employed a strategy as ship money to finance their naval efforts. This involved imposing a tax on coastal towns and countries to fund the construction and maintenance of warships, fortifications and coastal defenses. The English also utilized a system of beacons along the coast, enabling rapid communication and warning of the Armada's approach. This efficient communication network proved indispensable in alerting the English forces and coordinating their response. With the stage set and both sides prepared, the world was about to witness one of the most impressive sea battles to ever occur. The battle began in late July 1588 when the Spanish Armada encountered the English fleet off the coast of Plymouth. The English employed a strategy known as defensive offensive, aiming to engage the Armada while minimizing the risk of being boarded by the larger Spanish ships. In the initial encounters, the English relied on their superior maneuverability and long-range firepower to harass the Armada. They utilized smaller, more agile ships like the nimble galleons and employed hit-and-run tactics to disrupt the Spanish formation. To counter the English tactics, the Spanish attempted to close in on the English ships, hoping to engage in close combat where their superior numbers and size could overpower the English fleet. They aimed to utilize their cannons and the strength of their soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. However, the English employed a defensive tactic known as the line of battle. They formed a defensive line with their ships, presenting a formidable wall of firepower to deter the Spanish from approaching too closely. This tactic allowed them to maintain distance and continue their hit-and-run strategy. The Spanish, frustrated by their inability to break through the English defenses, made several attempts to board English ships. They launched small boats known as galleys to board and capture English vessels. However, the English counteracted this by utilizing their superior marksmanship and artillery to repel the Spanish boarding attempts. One of the most dramatic moments in the battle was the deployment of the English fireships, a bold and innovative strategy employed by the English Navy. These fireships were old, decommissioned vessels loaded with combustible materials such as pitch, tar, and gunpowder. As the fireships approached, the Spanish sailors and officers witnessed a terrifying sight. Faced with the threat of being consumed by flames, they had to make a choice between staying aboard their ships and risking their lives, or cutting their anchor lines and fleeing the immediate danger. The impact of the fireships on the Spanish fleet was profound. The sight of the advancing infernos caused widespread panic and confusion among the Spanish sailors. In their haste to escape the approaching fire, the Spanish ships cut their anchor lines and scattered, abandoning their carefully arranged formation. This disarray disrupted their ability to communicate and coordinate their actions effectively. The scattering of the Spanish fleet made it easier for the English Navy to capitalize on the chaos. They could now launch focused attacks on individual Spanish ships, exploiting their disorganized state. However, just as the English were closing in on the weakened Armada, they encountered a powerful storm, famously known as the Protestant Wind, or the Storm of the English. This storm, though seemingly fortuitous for the English, was an unexpected turn of events. The storm, which occurred in late July and early August of 1588, was a fierce gale that blew from the southwest. It posed significant challenges to the Spanish fleet, which was already battered in disarray. The adverse weather conditions hampered their ability to navigate and maintain control over their ships. The storm had a devastating impact on the Spanish fleet. Many ships were pushed off course, crashing onto rocky shores and suffering severe damage. The high winds and turbulent seas caused mast failures, ripped sails, and rendered many ships unseaworthy. The disoriented and demoralized Spanish sailors faced a dire predicament. Struggling to navigate through treacherous waters, they were now confronted with the destructive force of the storm. The storm's intensity and duration inflicted significant casualties and loss of ships among the already weakened Armada. In the aftermath of the storm, the Spanish Armada was left in tatters. Many ships were damaged or sunk, and the surviving vessels were in no position to mount an effective counterattack. The Sea Battle of 1588 resulted in a resounding victory for the English and a decisive defeat for the Spanish Armada. Despite the Spanish Armada's initial grandeur and numerical superiority, the English Navy's strategic prowess, the deployment of fireships, and the storm turned the tide in favor of England. The remnants of the Armada limped back to Spain, suffering heavy casualties, damaged ships, and a shattered morale. The impact of this Spanish defeat reverberated throughout Europe. The defeat of the seemingly invincible Armada shattered Spain's image as the dominant maritime power. It marked the beginning of the decline of Spanish naval supremacy and the rise of England as a major maritime and colonial power. The defeat of the Armada had significant political ramifications as well. It solidified England's position as a Protestant stronghold and safeguarded the country from the threat of the Spanish invasion. It bolstered Queen Elizabeth I's reign and enhanced her international reputation, as she was hailed as the Virgin Queen who successfully defended England against the mighty Spanish Armada. And that's it for the Battle of 1588. I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.